Good morning, everyone. Good morning, David. Good morning, Peter. Good morning, all those that are still joining us today. Today is a very poignant day, a very sad day, in that it's Yom Hazikaron, Israel's Remembrance Day for the fallen heroes of the State of Israel. And of course, it's followed and it was intended that way by Yom Ha'atzmaut. The two were created together. Israel's Independence Day. So you have first Israel's Remembrance Day, and then you have Israel's Independence Day. And the two really go hand in hand because we wouldn't have the State of Israel, friends, were it not for those that made the ultimate sacrifice for the State of Israel. From the very inception of the State of Israel, Israel faced attacks from its neighbors, its enemies that attacked it on all fronts, unprovoked, and that is the way for so much of Israel's history that it has been. There is an interesting, let's focus today on Yom Hazikaron, Israel's Remembrance Day, and then tomorrow we can speak a bit about Yom Ha'atzmaut. So Israel's Remembrance Day, perhaps one of the people that embodies Israel's Remembrance Day most, you'll look her up. We have tried to get her to be a guest speaker in our show, but she's obviously very much in demand. Is Miriam Perez? Miriam Perez, for the uninitiated, is really an extraordinary woman, one of the heroes of the State of Israel, who actually stood for president in the last presidential elections. She lost one of her sons in one of the wars, one of the conflicts. I think it was in the Golani Brigade, and she lost her son. Now, automatically, that meant that her other sons would be exempt from serving in the IDF, in the combat units, and yet they all chose, with her blessing, to fight for the State of Israel. And tragically and sadly, another of her sons she lost, and then her husband she lost. So she lost a son, then she lost her husband, and now she's lost another son. And rather than being an embittered woman, she is somebody who is full of light and inspiration to all those around her. She's extraordinarily positive and very philosophical in terms of recognizing that, that we have to look at that glass half full rather than half empty. As I've already mentioned, that from its inception of the State of Israel, as you're all aware, Israel faced attacks on all fronts. And when Ben Gurion declared the State of Israel in Tel Aviv, he declared Israel as a state in 1948. One of the people that were present then was Golda Meir, future Prime Minister herself of the State of Israel. And she spoke in her memoirs, she spoke about the fact that she broke down in tears on hearing David Ben Gurion declare Israel a Jewish state. And she said, "We are now a state like other nations. We are now a nation like other nations." And little did she know, but nothing could be further from the truth, because Israel is not and will never be a state like other states, a nation like any other nation. We are treated differently to every other nation. We accomplish and achieve different to every other nations. In fact, we find, if you go back to the Torah, that Bilam, and when he was trying to curse the Jewish people on the instructions of Balak, how did he refer to us? That we are a nation that dwells alone. And some have felt that that's a disadvantage. It's to our detriment. We want to be like the other nations. And there are some in Israel that all the time are trying to make us like other nations, secularize Israel. We want to be the same. We want to be a little America. We want to be able to have the same things as them. And little do they know that nothing could be worse and to the detriment of the State of Israel. there is so many pluses to our Jewish state in being a Jewish state and not just a state of Jews. If you look at what we achieved in the aftermath of the Holocaust, and from the ashes of the Holocaust arose a state of Israel, and those that gathered arms and had to fight in 1948 for the very existence of the state of Israel were very much those that had been in the camps, the survivors. They'd lost everything, and yet somehow they had the courage and the strength to be able to fight and to defend Israel in 1948. And then we went on to, out of a desert, to create a oasis, a beautiful country, which is one of the most dynamic, vibrant countries in the world today. And that was built on the back of the sacrifices that so many made for the state of Israel. And that's what Yom Hazikaron is all about, remembering the ultimate sacrifice. And today's a day in Israel where at 11 o'clock, the sirens will go and everyone will get out of their cars or stop work, stand to attention, and have that moment's silence. They go to the military cemeteries to remember the fallen, and all those that have died also in terrorist attacks. They go to those cemeteries, and Israel has paid a price like no other, and continues to do so as we face, even to this day, threats for our security from within and from without. So today is a day where we give thanks, and we remember and we mourn the loss of our brothers and sisters over the course of the last 70 years, which enabled and precipitated our ability to live or to visit the state of Israel, to have a Jewish homeland. It's not just Israel, it's our homeland. That's why it wasn't created. That was the brainchild of Ben Gurion and all those that established the state of Israel, that there should be a place where every Jew, whatever his religiosity, should feel at home. So we take this moment to salute those that made the ultimate sacrifice, and we will remember them as they are being remembered in Israel. And please God, we look forward tonight to celebrating Yom Ha'atzmaut. There will be a remembrance in Shul at 7:30. Yom Hazikaron, Yom Ha'atzmaut. We'll put it on Zoom as well. And we wish everyone, please God, only simchas. Have a great day and look after yourselves. Take care.